Oftentimes, when we hear the terms mental illness, we tend to think that someone is out of their mind, they're insane, they're just not quite right in the head. Is that what you really think it's all about? Or are we more than the madness? Those of us who deal with mental illness and mental disorders. Coming up next, right here on The Right Stuff. Stay tuned. You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Pocono, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. Hi, and welcome to the show. I am so glad you are here to join us today for this edition of The Right Stuff. One thing I want to tell you is thank you so much for your support of all my books. My newest book coming out called Time to Say Goodbye will be coming out very soon, probably in the first week of May. I'm very excited about it, looking forward to getting your responses to that. So make sure if you want a free ARC copy of my book, just sign up for my newsletter on my website, parkerjcole.com. You can get a free ARC copy of Time to Say Goodbye. I'm really looking forward to your response to that book as I continue in my writing career, as I kind of branch off into different types of venues. Also, I want to thank you for supporting the show. We've been doing the show now for almost 4 years in July, and it wouldn't be because of you. It wouldn't happen if it wasn't because of you. Your support, your comments, just continue supporting the show, reaching out, sharing it, making comments. I really appreciate that. So I don't want you to think I ever take your support lightly. I never, ever do. And then I also want to let you know that I will be at the SoCal Christian Writers Conference that's coming up June 22nd through the 24th in La Mirada, California. I'll be teaching two workshops there. One is about taboo subjects in Christian fiction, and the other workshop will be using harsh language and swear words in Christian fiction. And so I'll be doing those two workshops there. So I would love to meet you if you're in the La Mirada area or Southern California area. Would love to meet you and talk to you. Let me know if you got any questions. So if you want to get more information about the Southern California Christian Writers Conference, definitely go online and just type in SoCal CWC, and you'll get all the information that you need for the conference. You definitely want to register. It's a conference you don't want to miss. Lots of great workshops and talks and authors, and a lot of good information is going to be going on there. You definitely don't want to miss the SoCal Christian Writers Conference. As always, if you want to weigh in on our topic, you certainly can. You can call in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air, or hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff, with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break. We'll be right back after these. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Are you a reader looking for more compelling Christian fiction? Maybe something a little more edgy or a bit more real? Are you tired of most Christian fiction shying away from the truth and settling for a rose-tinted view of the world and its issues? Or are you an author who has a compelling story to tell, but you're afraid it doesn't jive with today's brand of Christian or secular fiction? Are you tired of Christian publishers telling you that your content is too edgy? Or maybe you've tried submitting your content under the radar to secular publishers only to be told your themes are a bit too religious. We invite you to take a look at the Crossover Alliance. We are an online publishing company that specializes in edgy Christian speculative fiction with Christian themes and real-world content. Our company is formed from authors and readers just like you who are breaking into the mainstream and Christian markets with this compelling genre. Head over to the www.thecrossoveralliance.com for all the details on who we are, what we do, and what we accept. Right now, if you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll receive a free digital copy of our first short story anthology. Check us out today and help us spread the word about the Crossover Alliance, where light shines brighter in the darkness.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer: no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out joeytweets.com. joeytweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 followers on Twitter. joeytweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's joeytweets.com. TWEETS.com. JoeyTweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here with me. We are talking about more than the madness. We'll be talking about a very sensitive subject when it comes to mental illness. And there are many of us among the body of Christ who have mental disorders, mental illnesses, things that are wrong with our well, not wrong with our brain, but the way we perceive things is differently. And so we're going to talk about this with my wonderful guest and returning co-host, John Konecki. John, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine, Parker, and I think you're right. It is accurate to say that with mental illness, that there are things going wrong in your brain, and I think. But I want everybody to be carefully understand that, for people, if you get the right chemicals to work off that imbalance, if you're fortunate enough that you could get the right chemicals, then it could rectify the situation.
And I think that's important, too. I like how you titled the name of your memoir, More Than the Madness, because it lets us know that you're not pigeonholed. Just because you may have a mental disorder or mental illness, you're not pigeonholed into something. You're more than, oh, that guy's just crazy, and we hear that a lot. Especially, we don't hear as much nowadays because people are more sensitive to the fact that a mental disorder is not a sign of madness, it's a sign that something's wrong, And so I want us to really kind of dig deep down into your book about More Than a Madness. But before we do that, I want people to know who you are in your own words, because you've been on the show several times. We always love having you when you're here. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself for those who are new listening to us today.
Well, God willing, I'll be turning 50 in a couple of months.
Hey, wonderful.
Yeah. I full-time caregiver for my wife. I work with the Church of Christ of Chancellor Avenue. That's in the South Ward in Newark. So that's inner city. I've been down there for about 8 years. Very active in outreach. We go door knocking. We have VBS. We had some doctrinal issues. The devil's always busy, I guess. So, so that's what I do is my ministry. I go down there. There was a great group of people we had, and there's still a great group of people. We're just not all together anymore. We're trying to work to reconcile things. That's a very important aspect of my Christianity. Of course, what profit the world to gain what profit a man to gain the whole world and lose the very soul. So that Christianity. Other than that, I'm a peace activist. I belong to a couple organizations, Women's International League of Peace and Freedom, which is a pacifistic group, and then New Jersey Peace Action, which is started off as an anti-nuclear group. So I'm active there. And then, I like to write. I have poetry out. I have 4 books of poetry out. I'm going to, God willing, I'm going to self-publish my 5th one. Well, 3 were published by other publishers, and then 1 I self-published. And now the 2nd one I'm going to self-publish. And I'd like to write. I have a couple horror novellas, a science fiction book, and then my memoirs, More Than the Madness, which was actually the very first book I started to write. It just took 8-9 years to finish.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
It's hard, Parker, because I had so much material. I had I think I almost had 160,000 words, and then I found Dreaming Big Publications is a wonderful publishing company. I'd recommend them to anybody, even though they're small. They do a lot of work. As a publisher, they get you on, they get you reviews, they get you on book blogs. They don't, and they did everything that they give you the ISBN number, the cover, the formatting, the editing, which is very important in prose to get a good editor. So they really took good care of me. I have nothing good but good things to say about Dreaming Big. There's definitely different types of publishers out there, and even the legitimate ones, small publishers, they won't do as much as Dreaming Big did. So I really want to give a lot of praise to Christy and everybody who works at Dreaming Big, because they're a fantastic group to work with. And even though I self-publish, I'm going to self-publish my poetry books, and I want to talk about that a little later. Then also, I plan to do another book with her anyway, another poetry book.
You know, the first time you were on my show, we were talking about your poetry book, Murmurings of a Madman, and I remember
Right.
how I remember that book was really talking about, your experiences being in an institution for a while
Yeah.
because of your mental illness, and I thought it was just so fascinating how some of the lyrics, not the lyrics, but the words that came out were just so profound, even while you were in
Oh, thank
the
you.
institution. And you talk about how poetry is such an important part of who you are as a writer. Go ahead and kind of expand on why poetry is such a huge part of who you are.
Well, poetry, if it's done right, is the best way to express anything. Because it's if you do it right, it's done in a memorable way, and it's done in a very short, succinct way. I understand I'm not obviously talking about the Iliad and Odyssey or Milton's whatever Inferno.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But like I like Shelley's Ozymandias, where they wander in the desert and they find this memorial to this ancient king, and it says I'm Ozymandias, fear my wrath, and he's just nothing now. I mean, you said so much in such a smart, short amount of space that that I haven't read that in years, and I still can recall the gist of it and the detail. It's just poetry. It's just that it's powerful, and it can make you think. In today's society, we have song lyrics, and that comes with the music and stuff like that. But that's just a genre of poetry. Rap, is even closer to poetry because I think there's less. I don't know. In rap, they really don't have the. I don't know, Parker. You probably know better than me. But in rap, they don't really have the note shifts of the singers. The people are more speaking. Is that correct? Or
well, I don't listen to rap, so I'm not the best person to ask. I don't listen to rap. I used to listen to when I was younger, But I like how you're saying that because of the fact that those are all different forms of poetry, just different ways they're doing it. But like you said, when it's done right, you can really make a huge impact.
Yeah, when it's done right, Parker. But that's the whole thing. Now I got a qualm with the whole poetry world. Poetry is the most practiced art, and there's a whole bunch of poetry books out there. But I don't know if we discussed it. With poetry, you got to show me you have talent before you can just throw out these words on the page. Like I don't know but you ever see Picasso, right? And Picasso, he's got some far out funky pictures that you can't really tell what's left and right.
Yeah.
But when Picasso wanted to paint something, like if he painted you or he painted me, we'd look at that and we'd say, wow, there's no doubt that's me. This man's got a lot of talent. He would paint almost exactly like they did in the Renaissance and the Europeans. But when Picasso paints this funky picture where you really can't grasp what it is, I mean, you've got to give it a certain amount of respect because the man has complete control of his art. The same way with poetry is if you can't write a sonnet or you can't write a rhyming poem, why should I respect your work? You haven't shown me any mastery of the language.
And the skill, the technique.
The skill, the technique, the basics. I understand people don't like that way to write. That's perfectly fine. But it's like a musician. A musician learns the scales first, and then they learn the chords, and they progress in ability. So if you can't really play chords, then really is your composition going to be of anything of value? I mean, I guess you could strike a miracle, and it'll be totally brilliant. But there's like a natural progression. I feel that same way in writing too. That especially poetry. Yeah.
I like that. I like how you said that. You said it's the most active literary work that's out there. A lot of people are writing poems and stuff like that. I remember when we talked last. Well, I've written a couple of poems. It is not a work that I'm very good at because most of the poems I did write, especially when I was younger, I used to write a lot when I was younger, but I can't find them now. And for example, John, my one poem I wrote was called "When the Vampire Drinks," and I was on a vampire kick at the time, And then I wrote a sad poem about a girl who watches her mom, get killed in an accident, and my mom's alive, But it was just I had very depressing poems when I was a kid. Maybe I was a goth and didn't know it. So
I give you a little bit of Jesus to get you over, right?
Yeah. It was just, I was just in a zone back then. So I don't write too many poems. Even now, I don't write poems, but I like them. I enjoy them like anyone else. I like how they can take a few words to just bring about this great truth about it. So I really can appreciate what you mean about poetry when it's done right, how you can just pack a huge volume.
You can say something in 20 lines that you can't communicate in a novel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the reason why, as we continue our discussion with our listeners out here, John's a poet, and his first book, Memories of a Madman, reflected his poetry in there. It has beautiful, beautiful pieces in there. And so one of the things about it is that by you being bipolar, or having bipolar and dealing with those issues with that also adds to your poetry. So your poetry is not just about communicating information. It's coming from someone who others may look like, excuse me, who others may feel as if, oh, this guy's just crazy. And I know you may have heard that before. And that's why I want to talk about more than the madness, because you're letting people know that it's more to me than my mental disorder, my mental illness. There's so much more to me than that. And let's go ahead and just kind of delve deep into more than the madness, because we talk about the poetry. And I want to let our listeners know you get a copy of his poetry online on Amazon.com. It's called Memories of a Madman. And so you're writing more than the madness, because this is your memoir of your life. And so what was that defining moment that said, you know what, I need to write my life story? What had happened at that moment?
Well, let me say, I got married, and I think I wanted to start. I always wanted to write, but I went to engineering school, unfortunately, which may not have been good, because the thing is, you can't really second guess everything you do in life, because if I went to be a writer, now I would have wanted to go to engineering school instead at this point in my life. So I really don't second guess. I'm content with the Lord has taken me to this point. And but what prompted me is I just wanted to write, and then actually I started writing science fiction stories, and I was having a terrible time to come up with ideas. And then I started thinking about my life. I said, my life is pretty interesting. Yeah, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I don't gotta make nothing up. So I started writing stories. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I didn't have to exaggerate or. And so I write stories. I started writing stories about my life, and the way it worked was that each story served as an independent chapter that you could just pick up one and then read it, and you wouldn't need to know anything in the other ones. So then what I did is I kept on writing, and I must have had like over 160,000 words. When you write a novel, Parker, how many words you put in? About 100,000 or?
Yeah, my largest book currently right now is 100,000, like 104,000 words. That's my largest book so far. My shortest is 5K. So, yeah, but it can get pretty good,
Yeah. So the thing is, I had 160,000, and yet there are still gaping holes in my life. And so then, that book, then I started with the science fiction, and the poetry more, and then Dreaming Big, I submitted a poem, they accepted it. It was called The Last Rhino, and then I said, she was specialized in mental health. Christy is a social worker, a master's, and so she has a master's degree now. So she's involved in that field. So when I told her this was part of my I think I called it autobiography, she really wanted to see it. And so I showed it to her, and then she was really enthusiastic. And so then we went through a long process because I had to finish, like I said, we decided to cut off a good portion of my life. Now I'm almost 50. Right? I guess I started writing the book when I was almost 40, around that time period. And so I had 40 years to choose. So we decided to end it when I stopped going to psychiatric hospitals. I put on a medicine called Clozaril that help. Like we're talking at the beginning of the show. When I take the Clozaril, I don't have any psychological problems, except for the replications of what I went through, which is like sometimes when I first started to go back into the working world. I just came back off of almost the doctor messed me up by switching medicine and didn't care. Another story there. But what happened was then, I lost confidence. I had to start over. You got to read. It's like going through a psychiatric experience where you go into the hospital. It takes time to recover to get you back where you were.
Right. Right.
So anyway, I had a lot of material, and then decided to cut it down to when I got put on the Clozaril and I could really maintain a normal life, which consisted of going back to college, getting my degree, getting work, getting a real job, getting married. But we cut it off at the point where I got on the Clozaril in the hospital. That was a cutoff point. So I had to fill it. I had all the chapters mentally and actually physically on a list that I wrote. But the thing is, then we couldn't include everything, or the book would have been 200,000 words and over, maybe
would have been
approaching 300,000. Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, John, I wanna cut you off. I want to take a quick break, and what we're gonna do, we have a caller who wants to ask a question and make a comment. So we're gonna take a quick break and get that caller on as soon as we get back from break. And you can also weigh in too by calling in at 646-668-8485, and then press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick short break. We'll be right back.
Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guest on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Have you read the latest issue of Sormag Digital, the award-winning literary magazine for multicultural readers and writers? Sormag Digital is available quarterly and showcases interviews with the best authors in multicultural literature. Sormag Digital features craft and business articles for those interested in writing. If you're looking for a good book, check out our book reviews on what's hot in multicultural literature. For writers looking for new readers to get in front of, Sormag Digital is the perfect place to introduce your book. We offer advertising spaces that fit your promotional budget. Get your free subscription on Sormag.com or order a print issue on magcloud.com. If you would like more information about Sormag Digital, check us out on Sormag.com or contact us at sormag@yahoo.com. Sormag Digital is the magazine for multicultural readers and writers.
Have you dreamed about writing a book but didn't know how to start? Or are you an established author who's looking to grow in your career? There's a brand new opportunity for writers of all genres to come together for training, fellowship, connections, and fun. Join us this summer, June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in Southern California for the SoCal Christian Writers Conference. You can register for 1, 2, or all 3 days. Each day is packed with instruction and opportunities to progress in your writing expertise and career. This conference offers a stellar lineup of faculty along with continuing education sessions for every genre, from fiction to nonfiction, music to screenplays, and so much more. There's even a track for teens. Plan your family vacation around this conference. Register in February and you can bring a friend for half price. For more information, visit SoCalCWC.com. Come for the conference and stay for the fun.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J. and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. So glad you're here. We are talking to my wonderful returning guest co-host and contributor today, John Konecki. He is the author of the book of poetry called Memories of a Madman, and we're also talking about his memoirs today called More Than the Madness, which details his life as someone who has had a very interesting one, as well as has dealt with mental disorders and mental illness. And again, John, thanks for being with me. We do have a caller who has a question for you. Joanna from Rochester Hills, Michigan. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Parker?
I'm fine, thank you. You have a question, a comment for our guest?
Actually, yes, I do. I wanted to know, I have a friend who is bipolar depressant, but they're on the manic side, and they're not taking their medicine, and nothing that I say will really help. And I don't know I don't know if they're in some delusional moment or whatever to think they don't need their medicine, but they do. What do you say to somebody in a situation like that?
Well, I went through that too. I quit taking my medicine, 3 times, I think, before I learned my lesson. And when I learned my lesson, I wound up being in a state institution called Greystone, which is what the book Murmurings of a Madman is. For somebody like that, I mean, it's a very bad thing. I had a friend who kept on quit taking his medicine, and then he wound up committing suicide. Encourage them and love them, and maybe if you have to love them from a distance, sometimes you're just going to have to learn by bad experiences. But don't be. I mean, encourage them lovingly, but don't be too critical that you push them away. Like this friend that I was referring to just killed himself around Thanksgiving. The minister of our church and other people, we were always there for him. And when the minister at Chancellor Avenue would get on him to take the medicine and stuff like that, he would get angry and he wouldn't want to deal. So hopefully your friend who doesn't want to take the medicine, hopefully he has a support group of people who care about him, that if things go bad and the hospital is very good for two reasons. The hospital, and there's only really two reasons you should be in the hospital. One is if you're manic and your own actions will endanger your life, or two, if you're depressive, especially to the point of suicide, then a hospital is very appropriate. But if your friend is, it's a tough thing because you don't want to be on the medicines. Just taking medicine for anything, you don't like doing it. Taking medicine for mental illness, it's an admission that you have a mental illness, and you don't want to accept that. You'd like to believe there's not an illness. And then also the medicines make you tired, and they have side effects as well. And for me too, like I'm an artist. I was in a hospital. Long story, I was cheating on my medicine because I was trying to work and leave for work at 5 in the morning and getting back 8 at night every night. So, as an artist, I'm very, very creative when I'm not on the medicine. But really, it's a matter of survival. How long have you known your friend?
I've known him for a good 3 years now.
3 years, and has he been in the hospital?
He was in the hospital once, but he don't want to go back, and now he's off his meds, and he's not answering the phone. He's still with us, but he's having this spell, and I don't know what to say to him.
Well, it's just love to say, you say I'm very concerned about you. I love you as a friend, and the right thing for you is for you to take your medicine, because you're going to wind up in the hospital, or you might meet some worse fate, and I'm concerned. Please take your medicine, but I'm not going to pressure you in this. But if you need help, please turn to me. If you have to do anything, because you really can't convince nobody to take your medicine. It's a hard thing. But for one who walked that walk, it's a hard path to accept. And I've seen other people with the same thought pattern. It's fairly common. You just don't want to be on those medicines. You feel better, and you feel better to a point where you don't think you need them, and you get rid of them. Has his behavior changed since he stopped his medicine? Well, like I said, just love him from a distance and be there to help him. And if he has to go back in the hospital, let him go in the hospital again. That's how you're going to have to learn sometimes the hard way. Once I run up into the state institution, and I went before the judge, and the judge told me that if I see you again here, you're going to stay here for a long time. It changed my perspective about things as much as you possibly could. So that's not a good answer, maybe, but it's a realistic and honest answer.
Joanna, Thank you so much for calling in and weighing in on our topic. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I was listening to Joanna talk about a friend, and I think about how so many of us, the fact is that when you're sick, you need help, and some of our brothers and sisters and those of us who are on meds, we sometimes don't like how those meds affect us, and like you said something very interesting. You said when you're not on your meds, you're more creative, but then you said it's about a matter of survival, because you're more creative, your thoughts flow, stuff like that. On a little more humorous note, for myself, I don't drink it anymore, but my drug of choice was Mountain Dew. I love Mountain Dew. Loved Mountain Dew. Yeah. And what happened, I remember one time I was drinking Mountain Dew and writing, and probably the best writing experience I'd had. You know what I mean? I was like flying high off of Mount Dew, you know, and it's more humorous, but, you know, it's just like, I understand what you mean. Like, you're more creative. You feel like you're more in tap with that creative talent that you have. But then you said it's a matter of survival. And I think that's important because in your book, I know you've probably discussed many different episodes that happen in your life, but then you don't want to be more than that madness that fuels your creativity. For those of us who have mental illness and are creative, you don't want to fuel that because you can go to a place you can't come back from. Like you said, your friend committed suicide, you know, and you don't want to be there. You know, the Lord has you here for a reason. He has you here on this earth because he wants you here to do something. Whatever that is, he'll give you that purpose. He'll tell you what that purpose is. And so that's why I enjoy talking with you, because you're so open and honest about, you know, living with mental illness, living with a mental disability, and living with that. And you're so open and honest about that. And that's what I enjoy when you talk about the shows. And so people who've read More Than the Madness, how has their responses been to the book?
Well, I would add another element to the book is that in the book, I start when I'm a child, or you know, my earliest memories, and I go up to age about 24 where I got put there. But in there also is a story of how I became a Christian, and it's like it's not a subtle theme, obviously, but it's not the major theme. It would be like a co-star in the book. So the book is a great way if you have a friend that you want to introduce to Christianity. That book would be a great way. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, I was saying how people responded to your book.
How people responded? Oh, yeah, and then, it's been pretty good. You know, marketing is a very hard thing, Parker. You know, I know. I haven't mastered that one yet.
I don't think anyone has.
I think people have. I mean, look, 50 Shades of Grey, so how many books?
Oh, don't get me started on 50 Shades of Grey, John.
Hey, what about what was the other one? Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter.
Yeah, but at least one book's a really good book, and one's just whatever. But anyway, you were saying.
I never read it. I never read that one. Okay, we'll stay away. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Well, let's talk about it in the abstract sense. People market books, and they just know how to market it, and the material's terrible. Whereas I feel there's probably books out there that, and I hope to include mine among it, that are, you know, worthy of reading, but, you know, the news hasn't, and it's hard to advertise. I had the Christian Chronicle, it's a Church of Christ thing, and I put my my advertisement on it, and it sold one book to the woman who works there because she wanted to read it, you know, so. Yeah, I think it was like $200 or something like that I spent. So you know, so it's hard to market. You know, if I had a good way to market, I would. I'd be successful.
Well, I think part of marketing is just to keep writing. Part of marketing is keep writing because the more books you have, the more people, the more opportunity you have to put out more product. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
And then I honestly think with your set of books, you talk about being having bipolar, you know, and Memories and Madmen, talk about your life story here and More Than the Madness and other things you talked about. And I know that draws attention. So our writers out there, you know, some of you worry about the marketing, keep writing. Part of your best marketing is to keep writing. I know you have to do other things so you can continue to produce sales. We're not saying don't do that. But we definitely want you, encourage you to keep writing.
You got it. You should be into writing for the love of the writing and not to make the money. And you know, but it is the scary. But when you're on a roll, Parker, I don't know if your experiences parallel mine exactly. But when you're on a roll, and you know, when I got my first book published, it was really thrilling. And then the more success you have, it builds up. But then it's like a drug. It really is. And then the drug is you want more. You want to go to the next level. But the thing is also now I understand that, and I'm guilty of that. But I know that once I reach to the point where I can support myself and my family in a reasonable manner, that I would ease up.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
I would chill out.
That. You know, so one thing I want to talk about more, with getting more to More Than Madness here, you know, one thing that you say how this is a good book for people who want to know about your journey to Christ. And so with that, my question is this. people often think there are barriers for people who have mental disorders and mental issues that they cannot know salvation. They cannot know Christ because they have this barrier. What do you say to something like that?
There's a mental
because they have mental disorders. Like there's a mental disorder, so they can't really be cognizant of accepting Christ as their Savior. You know what I mean? Or they can't be cognizant of salvation and things of that nature. What would you say to that?
I don't really agree. I think that's, I mean, then we would be judging.
Okay.
Because one of the best brothers at the Manhattan Church of Christ, he was a schizophrenic. But he'd come out with me when I went into we go out to Central Park. It was only like 3 blocks or 2 blocks from the church building. And we would go out, hand out tracts, inviting people to come to the church. And he went with me. He was schizophrenic. He knew the Bible really well. No, I don't believe so. I mean, obviously, if somebody's in such a state of mind that they can't grasp reality, I mean, I don't think God's going to hold them accountable anyway. How can God, No, I mean, and as a matter of fact, I'll tell you the God's honest truth. You will find no more of a loving, accepting community than the mentally ill people, because they know what it's like to be down and out, and they know what it's like to have nothing. Because you locked up in a hospital. I don't care. I've been in some, like the book says, I've been in some of the nice hospitals. I changed all the names, by the way. But in the book, at least in the memoirs. But if you wanted to research, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find the real names. But anyway, the thing is, even the nicest hospital, like a prison, so you got to rely on somebody outside yourself. So mental illness is a humbling thing. It teaches you a lot about life, and I feel I'm a better person for it. Will I volunteer for the experience? Not in a million years.
Right.
But since I went through it, I might as well gather the fruits and the lessons that God taught me through it. And that's just how it is.
We're talking to John Konecki. He is the author of the memoir, More Than a Madness, where he details his life story about having a mental illness. It's available online on Amazon.com. You go ahead and get a copy today, and then pick up his other works. His first show, John, you were on a show before. His first show with us was Memories of a Madman, which is a book of poetry that he wrote while he was institutionalized in a hospital.
It's written about that period of time.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, John.
It was written thinking of that period of time, loosely.
Oh, thinking of that period of time, sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't written in that period of time. No, I did have some. Unfortunately, I threw out all my early work that I was in the hospital. I thought they were too crazy. Maybe they were a little too crazy. But I saved a handful. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
But I got 4 poetry books. 1 I self-published, and then a couple horror and a science fiction in the memoirs. And then, God willing, coming up, I got a couple more horror books coming out, and I got self-published at least 1 more poetry book, probably 2. And then, I like I said, with Dreaming Big, they said they would do another one.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to see you progressing and to see that progressing and just knowing that, one thing I like too is that because even though you have bipolar and other issues, that's not stopping you from your dreams, and that's not stopping you from writing, and that's not stopping you from living. And you said you said this before on the show. You said if you get your medications correct, if you get that correct, you may not want to take it, but then you say you have to think about your survival. And that just really resonates with me. We may have issues, but if we ask first of all, the Lord can help us with those issues, and then He's given us alternatives to help us too. And I like that you said that, you said your survival's at stake. If you want to weigh in on our topic, you certainly can by calling in at 646-668-8485 and then press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break. We will be right back after these messages.
Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Engaging the culture's imagination through speculative fiction, the Untold Podcast produces audio fiction from a Christian worldview. Find us over at untoldpodcast.com, where we partner with authors to tell science fiction, fantasy, supernatural, and horror stories. Find links at untoldpodcast.com to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and a variety of other platforms. Each month we produce high-quality audio fiction that's free to download and free to listen. Our submissions are open, and we're always looking to add another great story to over 24 hours of narrative entertainment. Find all of our audio fiction over at www.untoldpodcast.com.
Hi, is your book club in need of some fresh and exciting questions to ask club members and authors at your next book club meeting? Literations, the book conversation game, is 70 thought-provoking questions to really get into an in-depth discussion about the books you and your club members are reading. These questions really get into the characters, the storyline, and into the author's head. These questions may just give you and your book club members a whole new way to get into a new conversation, a literation. Literations is also a great set of tools for bloggers, interviewers, and authors to use as discussion questions. Are you ready to get lit? Please visit our website at litversations.com, litversation.com. And please like our Facebook page at Simply Said Reading Accessories. Thank you.
We're back, and you're hanging out with the queen of Tuesday night, Parker J., and her guests, right here on The Right Stuff.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. I am so excited you are here with me. We're having a fantastic time with my returning guest co-host and contributor today, John Konecki. He is the author of the memoir, More Than the Madness, that details his life having lived with a mental disorder, as well as becoming a Christian and so many other things. What I want you to do is love on my brother today and go ahead and get a copy of his book. You won't be disappointed. You're going to enjoy it. And then get some of his other books. He has several collections of poetry, a couple of horror works coming out, and then some more coming out after More Than the Madness. And John, once again, thanks for being with me on the show. We do have a caller calling in. We have Jenny calling in from Detroit. Jenny, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for, letting me be on your show.
And you had a question or comment for our guest?
I did have a question for Mr. Konecki. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Konecki, I thought that, I've always thought that bipolar is something that people used as an excuse for bad behavior, because I know several people that go around, just spouting, I'm bipolar. They kind of use it, to me, as an excuse. And I know the minute you put a name to something, then the pharmaceutical companies will make a medication for it, and then, more people will get it. But I came on late, so I don't know, I didn't hear. Can you tell me exactly how you knew or how you were diagnosed with that illness?
Yeah, well, for one thing, when I get bipolar, one thing is that my Christianity or faith or religion, however you like to label it, it gets very intense. So I was doing stuff like giving away all my money, like I wrote in the book, very interesting chapter. I went to the United Nations and told them I had a message from God. So I know what you're saying, that people might use bipolar for like an association with like loose living or cursing or drinking or drugging. Is that what you're referring to, ma'am?
Yeah, just bad behavior, in general.
In general.
If you start arguing with someone, I'm bipolar, which means it's okay.
Sure, anybody can use it.
Right.
Yeah, people can use it as an excuse if they like. Sure. You can use anything as an excuse. People, you ask people to change, and they don't even have to be bipolar. Oh, it's just the way I was raised. Oh, there's no hope for me. It's a system. I can think of a million excuses. But if bipolar is the one to use it, but no, hey, you know what? Bipolar is a reality, and I'm here to testify it. When I take my medication, and I don't even have to see a doctor. I see the doctor, and I talk 2 minutes with him. Or if I talk with politics, I talk 20 minutes with him. I just take my medicine, and I'm fine. And right now I'm presently a caregiver for my wife, so I can't work a conventional job. But I went back and got a degree from college. I went back and I got a job where I could support myself. But it's not going to be the same with everybody. I guess people can use bipolar or schizophrenia as an excuse, but that doesn't take away the reality. And even if you do have bipolar, just like any human being, you should be encouraged to live your life to the fullest.
Okay.
Jenny, does that help you with? Go ahead.
Well, I still kind of sort of wanted to know how he knew that there was something wrong with him.
Okay,
and how did he get the?
Yeah, Jenny, the other side is like another side, Jenny, ma'am, is that when I'm manic, which bipolar has the two stages. You're manic or you're depressed, and there's a whole different variety. When I'm manic, I would, like, for example, one time I was driving cabs 12 hours